At Bitcoin Magazine, one of our heroes is Hal Finney. Hal Finney was one of the first people to respond when Satoshi Nakamoto submitted the Bitcoin white paper to the cryptography mailing list. He was the first contributor to Bitcoin development besides Satoshi, he was one of the first Bitcoin miners on the network, and he was the recipient of the first ever Bitcoin transaction, which he received from Satoshi. But Hal was a hero even before Bitcoin. Back in the 1990s, he was a major contributor to the popular encryption program PGP. As a cypherpunk, Hal also developed and ran the first ever remailer, a sort of precursor to Tor that anonymously forwarded emails to help people communicate privately. And having promoted the idea of digital cash within techno-utopian extropian circles early on, Hal Finney had in 2004 launched a digital cash project of his own, called RPow. In the summer of 2009, just months after he'd helped Satoshi bootstrap Bitcoin, Hal Finney was diagnosed with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, better known as ALS. ALS is a progressive, fatal neuromuscular disease that slowly kills the motor neurons, which carry signals from the brain to the muscles. In other words, it robs the body from its ability to walk, speak, swallow, or even breathe. ALS can strike anyone, and presently there is no known cause or cure. Hal Finney ultimately passed away on August 28, 2014. In honor of our hero Hal, Bitcoin Magazine is now raising money for the ALS Association. To contribute to our fundraiser or to learn more about Hal, visit bitcoinmagazine.com/r-hero-hal.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. My name is Jamal. I work in front-end engineering at Lightning Labs. And today I'm going to be talking about Lightning Terminal, which is a new product we launched probably a couple months ago, which basically brings a user interface on top of an existing product, Loop, that we've had out for over a year now, year and a half maybe. And so I wanted to spend some time just kind of going over what the product is, what it does, how it's helpful, and hopefully get more people interested in using it. So I'll start off with sharing my screen. And I think I should be sharing now. So I got just a quick presentation, just a few slides, and then I'll dive into the actual product. So before I start with the product, I just want to kind of level set and make sure everyone's aware of what Lightning Loop is and what it's used for, and the reasons why we built it here at Lightning Labs. Then I'll give an overview of the terminal product. Then I'll do a walkthrough, the demo, and then I'll talk about something called a Grand Unified Binary, which is something we shipped as part of terminal, which also is should be very useful to node operators and businesses and hobbyists that want to use the Lightning Network, specifically with the Lightning Labs stack. And then I'll show how that grub is used, and then also showcase a new feature that we're close to releasing support for remote LED nodes. So with Lightning Loop, essentially they're, if you're not familiar, they're Lightning Labs branded version of submarine swaps. There are different types of submarine swaps or different ways to implement it. Lightning Labs implemented it one way and released it as a product called Lightning Loop, in which case there is a, the reason for it is essentially to transfer funds, your Bitcoin balances from your from the Lightning Network to your on-chain wallet, and to do it trustlessly and non-custodially. So it uses these things called HTLC contracts, which is used throughout the Lightning Network in general, which essentially says that I'll send you some money from me to some recipient, I'll send you some money, but you won't be able to claim that money unless you have a secret. So I keep the secret, send you the money. Let's just say we're doing a loop out, which is an transfer network from the Lightning Network to the Bitcoin blockchain. And in that scenario, I would send you some funds, but it would be locked in an HTLC, in which case I have the secret, and I tell you I won't reveal the secret to you until you pay me an on-chain or broadcast an on-chain transaction that's also locked to that secret. So in that case, you could complete what's essentially a circle of, once I revealed the secret on-chain to claim those funds, you now have the secret and can claim the funds on the Lightning Network. And then the reverse happens with loop in. So loop in is I have funds on the on-chain Bitcoin blockchain, and I want to transfer those funds to my Lightning node inside of channel balances. And you basically do the opposite. So I would submit an on-chain transaction, and with the secret, the counterparty would send a Lightning Network transaction to my node, but it would be locked until I reveal the secret. And then when I reveal the secret, completing the Lightning payment, he now has a secret to claim the funds or unlock the funds on chain. So why is Loop a good thing for the Lightning Network? Essentially, it's because here is a example of a channel. So, you know, a channel in Lightning networks, their capacity is fixed. So when you open a channel, you're saying, I want this channel to have 15 million sats capacity, total capacity. And the funds shift from one side of the channel to the other side. So you can see in this case, I can receive 3.2 million sats, and I could send 11.7. But once, if the other side of this channel is continuing to send channels through me, so if I continue to receive another 3.2 million, this channel will be depleted, and essentially it becomes no use to me because the only thing I can do is send out of it. I can't receive into it. And we know that, you know, liquidity on the Lightning Network is not balanced. You have, depending on your business or your user, you know, depending on your need, more than likely you are operating in primarily, or it leans in one direction. So for businesses like Refilled and Fold that sell goods or gift cards, they typically receive a lot of payments and rarely ever send payments out. So their channels that they open up will constantly be getting drained to or overweight on their side, so that they're receiving a lot of balances. And in the opposite directions, you have businesses like Lolly, who's a rewards program or rebates over Bitcoin, as well as Strike, who's transferring fiat to Bitcoin. They're typically sending out over Lightning. So their funds on their channels typically get low on the can send side. So, and once the channel is depleted, it's really no longer useful for those businesses that favor one direction or the other. So Lightning Loop is a solution to being able to replenish those channels without having to close the channel and reopen a new one, because you can basically shift the balance of the channel into in one direction and then receive the funds on chain or send funds on chain to uh, replenish the channel in the other direction. So like I mentioned, Loop has been out and being used on the Lightning Network for over a year now, but it was all command line. So Terminal is, I kind of actually got these slides a bit backwards. So Terminal is presents a UI on top of the Lightning Loop product today. I mean, there's more we intend to do in terms of just managing liquidity, but Terminal is a UI, a web-based dashboard that you can run on your own. So it's self-hosted. It's not like centrally managed by Lightning Labs. And then essentially goes through and shows you, displays in the visual format, your channels, your balances, and we put a focus on emphasizing the channels that require your attention. So if you have a channel, let's just say the top one here, it shows that you're getting low. So we indicate it with the red bar. So from a high level, you have your on-chain and off-chain balances, which are these on the left-hand side. You have your liquidity, just to give you high-level stats of how much you have going inbound and outbound. And you can see from a holistic view, if you're running low, inbound or outbound, depending on your use case. And again, it shows the channels. So all of your channels that you have open on the Lightning Network, as well as a visual indicator on the status of that channel, whether it's in a good state or a bad state. And then, of course, you can initiate loops inside of the product. So I'm just going to actually walk through a demo of using it. So once you have Lightning Terminal set up, you'll essentially need to connect it to your, the Bitcoin blockchain. So it has a Lightning LND node built in, as well as a loop server built in, or a loop client rather, that communicates with the server. So I'm just going to walk in, and I'll actually later on walk through a bit of a set on how to set it up or to load it up when you're on the computer. So you get a bit of a kind of getting started guide once you get in. I won't go through the whole thing, but it basically walks you through the product, which I'm going to do for you right now. So you don't have to do it. So essentially, this is what I was showing before. You have the balances. So on my node, I'm actually running on the Regstats environment, so I can mine some blocks and show a full loop complete and show how it services that information in the UI. But you can see here I have two channels that look like they're pretty, they're soon to be depleted, where I can't receive any more over these channels. And I'm operating, assume I'm receiving a lot of funds from a business, a merchant selling goods over the Lightning Network. And so I receive a lot of funds and I rarely send out. So I want to take these funds that are here in this channel, this 11.7 million sats and 8.9 sats, and move them to my off-chain wallet so that the balance shifts to the right-hand side. And now I can continue to receive more over this channel without having to close and create a new channel. So in order to do that, it's actually just a few clicks. I would click on the loop button, and I can either loop with letting the loop client just automatically, or let it decide which channels to loop out over, or I can actually select an individual channel and tell it, okay, I want to shift the funds or the balance of this channel. And what I want to do is take some of this 11.7 million, and I want to transfer it from this Lightning channel into my on-chain Bitcoin wallet. So I can click loop out, and then I'm just given, how much do I want to send. I can drag, and it tells me how much is a minimum and maximum. These are minimum and maximum are based on parameters set by the loop server that Lightning Labs manages, the swap server. But there's also limits based on the channel capacity if you need those. We have some additional options. So if you're not in a rush, you can increase the confirmation target, which basically just you specify how many blocks you want this on the on-chain transaction part of this swap to target. So how many confirmations? So if you set it low, then you're going to pay a higher fee than if you set it to a higher number, 50 blocks. Let's just say you don't care if the loop can finish over the weekend, then you can pay a lower fee. So that's a method to decrease fees. And you can also specify a destination address. So if you want to, let's just say, loop out of your Lightning balance and go directly into an exchange wallet or your cold storage or some other address that's not your LND node, you can specify that here. I'm not going to do that now. Since we have 11.7 million, I'm just going to go for the max and click next. And then this just gives you a breakdown of how much you're looping out, what fees you're going to pay. So these fees are broken down actually into 3 buckets. One is the on-chain fee, and one is the Lightning routing fee, so the routing fee, and then the third one is a fee paid to the swap server. As you can see, for the most part, it's usually pretty small. And then I click confirm, and this is submitting the loop to the loop server. And what's happening now is you can see the balance of my Lightning channel actually just went down by 10 million sats, and the the off-chain funds were decreased. So this used to be 38 million sats, and now it's 10 because I sent it to 10 million Satoshi payment. And so what happens now is that I sent the payment over Lightning. So now, and I hold the secret. So now the swap server has, an HTLC that they said, I can claim these funds if I'm given the secret. And all that needs to happen is for me, the swap server, to send an on-chain transaction to my node or that destination address. And when that on-chain transaction gets confirmed, it'll be moved into my on-chain balance. So you can see this pre-image reveal is basically stating that that secret was revealed on-chain, and now both the swap server and I can claim the fund. So that typically will take some amount of confirmations on-chain in order to complete that swap, but you can see how the balance has shifted, where this used to be the balance was highly over here, and now it's moved over here. And obviously you can go through your history. There's also some settings in here where you can configure how do you want your Bitcoin balance to be displayed, whether in full BTC or Satoshis or bits. There's also this channel balance mode, which is important to mention, in that you can, depending on your node or your business operations, you can specify whether or not you optimize your channels for sending, receiving, or routing. So if you're, like I mentioned just now, I was a merchant that sell goods over Lightning, so I receive most of my funds over Lightning. So the UI reflects and indicates channels that are not optimum for that channel mode. But if I change it to receiving and then go back, you'll see it actually rearranges the channels and chooses the ones, because I am a strike that sends a lot of funds. So any channels that have low balances on that I can send out of are now the channels that are need my attention, or I should perform a loop out on. And the routing node is basically someone who optimizes for wanting balances to be 50-50 split on either side. So if one gets low, that's less funds that I can send in one direction on that. So I want to optimize to keep my my balances in the middle. So yeah, that's kind of a walkthrough of the Lightning Terminal product. What I wanted to also mention is a cool feature that we added into the Lightning Terminal product, which we called Grand Unified Binary. And essentially, it solves a problem. Well, what it is first, basically, it creates a single executable. So you install one server, one daemon onto your machine. And it includes terminal, LND, loop, Faraday, and potentially future daemons that Lightning Labs creates, and combines them all into a single executable, single install, and a single upgrade. Instead of currently what the case is, or prior to terminal, you would have to install LND or have your LND node running. Then you'd have to install loopd on the same machine or on a different machine or a different VM. And then you'd have to have Faraday running, which you can also install. And then as we were introducing terminal, obviously this becomes a bit of a hassle if you have to have all of these processes that you're managing, whether on the same machine or on different machines, different servers. It just becomes a maintenance burden and increases the compatibility issues, because some version of terminal may only work with specific version of loopd or specific version of LND, et cetera, et cetera. So it can get pretty complex pretty fast. So essentially, we created this unified binary in order to simplify that down to just a single executable that you need to install, and we'll deal with the version compatibility issue. So whenever you get a version of terminal, you know that it's compatible with the version of LND, loop, Faraday, et cetera, that's bundled with it. And it was a pretty cool project, which I definitely salute to the protocol level guys working on these daemons, because it was a pretty big refactoring from my understanding, in order to be able to support starting and stopping the nodes at runtime, as well as connecting them all together, using their interfaces and such. And then we created terminal and grub are kind of one and the same, but it's a cool technique or concept that we built into this. And I wanted to just kind of give you a demo of that, and also speak to a new feature which we are launching pretty soon. It's actually released in the RC version, but we will be finalizing that probably in the near future, in the really near future, not probably, but. So I wanted to talk to this remote node support. So in addition to the grub, we released the version 1 of Lightning Terminal, and all of the products that I mentioned before are included in the binary. But then there are some operators who already have a kind of infrastructure built around running an LND node, and they have their, whether it's Docker and Kubernetes set up, or some type of virtual machines and in the cloud, or pretty much a lot of companies already built infrastructure around running LND. So to go and swap LND out was a concern. It was risky. So people really were asking for the feature to connect to LND from terminal, so they can use terminal, but they don't need to use the LND node that's built in. They can connect it. And so over the past I'd say month or so, we've been working internally on implementing that feature, and it's available now. So I'm just gonna slide over the terminal here and showcase some of the showcase how you go about setting that up. It can be a little tricky just getting set up, but this is a testnet node I have running, and it has LND already running on it. So I'll just do LNCI. Oops. Sorry, got disconnected. There we go. All right, so yeah, here's my Lightning node. So confirm LND is already running. It's in a separate process. And now I want to start or connect Lightning Terminal to this. So once you install, there's install instructions in the repo. You'll get a command line executable called litd. So if we run litd/help, this will give you all of the parameters that you can specify. So now since, and most of these are LND has a lot of configuration to support. But since LND and loop and Faraday are all integrated into the single binary, you have to be able to pass the configuration into it You can do it through a config file or through the command line directly. But what's new about this new release is that you can specify some remote node options. So you can specify, when using LND remote, the RPC server, the macaroon, and TLS certificate for the LND node that you want to connect to. And so I'll show you, I have this set via a configuration file. So go all the way down here and let's see. So here's my configuration file. You can tell it what server, what port to listen on. You can specify a password. The password can be set either just plain text in the file, or you can specify that you want to pull it from an environment variable, which is a lot safer. You can also, which is pretty cool, use Let's Encrypt certificates because it's a web-based application. If you use the auto-generated self-signed certificates that LND generates, then you'll get browser warnings in your browser about the certificate is unknown. But if you set up Let's Encrypt, then you can have a specific domain name that you want to connect to, and connect through a browser from any device, and you won't get any SSL issues. But here's the important part, which was recently added, which is adding this LND mode, which tells it I want this terminal instance to connect to a remote LND server, which can be both on the same machine or on a different machine. You just have to give it the LND's certificate and macaroon, as well as specify the network. So to start it up, it'll use this configuration file by default. So if you just create a file in the .lit folder, call it lit.conf, with these parameters, which are all documented in the help, as well as some additional information in the README on the repo. You can just run litd, and you can see this is started up my litd instance. I'm just going to move this out the way to show it running on the server. So now I'm accessing a secure server using the Let's Encrypt certificate, and I can connect from this computer, from a tablet, phone, any type of devices. This is a server running on my testnet node, and you can see I have some poorly balanced channels, so I need to do some work on maintaining this node. But this is how you run on, connect to an existing Lightning node, and I can still perform loops. What do I have? I only have 9 million on chain, but I got a bunch off chain, so it's loop out some amount. And I just initiated a loop, obviously, because it's on testnet. It's going to take some time to mine blocks, so I'll wait for that. But just to kind of show you where to get this, obviously, you can go to lightninglabs.engineering, but this new release that we just put out a release candidate for the .2 release, which has the remote changes, the remote node support and configuration and all that stuff. And we're definitely looking for feedback. So if anyone out there is looking to play with Lightning Terminal without having to modify their existing LND node or touch it, now's a good opportunity to do that. And we'll definitely appreciate any feedback there may be. So that was the demo, and then kind of the last thing I wanted to briefly mention was kind of where we kind of see the vision for Lightning Terminal is pretty much providing a UI. Because Lightning Labs has historically built primarily command line driven tools and servers and all these great products, LND and Loop and Faraday and such. And so, but there's a burden because not everyone's familiar or comfortable operating primarily on the command line. So we wanted to wrap this functionality in a nice looking UI that not too difficult to get set up, and can progress along with the underlying node and servers. So we definitely want to introduce some Faraday reporting. So Faraday is an accounting solution which has really great reports especially for businesses that manage funds both on chain and off chain, and you have to count for every single Satoshi. Faraday is a great solution for that, so we're going to surface some of those reports, both directly in the UI as well as downloadable via CSV and such. Loop suggestions. So we recently, in the latest version of Loop, implemented kind of an analysis of your channels and being able to suggest, okay, here's a channel that you should loop. So that's already built into the Loop daemon that's available on the command line. And so in a future release, we hope to include that. We also want to include some additional channel management, liquidity management features. Like, we don't intend to be a full-on, full control of your node dashboard, but managing liquidity is kind of the core focus. So things like opening, closing channels, reporting on fees that you're paying, circular rebalancing if necessary, and of course, when the Lightning Labs has additional products that we want to introduce in the market, we definitely are looking to integrate that stuff into the terminal product. So I think, if you set up terminal, if you're new to Lightning, I think setting up terminal is probably the better approach to getting on board on top of Lightning. If you're an existing user that already has LND set up, already has channels, and a whole bunch of infrastructure around it, then with the remote node support, you can add terminal to your toolbox and still take advantage of the features and functionality built into it without having to kind of tear down any of your existing infrastructure and all that stuff. So yeah, I think that's pretty much what I have. Again, my name is Jamal James. On Twitter, I'm at Jamal JSR, and Lightning Labs is the company I work with. And they're Lightning on Twitter and lightning.engineering on the web. And thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and definitely don't hesitate to go check out Terminal on lightning.engineering as well as on GitHub. All right.